In this episode, meeting two leading experts from two different industries. Maximilian Schumacher, he came from Siemens Energy to NIO as Energy Strategy and Innovation Lead. And Christian Malorny from Kearney, one of the visionary top management consultant and strategist in the automotive world. Together, they will discuss the topic of sector coupling and why NIO is also an energy company. Follow them to the NIO House in Berlin and learn more about NIO's unique approach to being part of the electrical grid of tomorrow. Welcome to House of NIO, a NIO podcast. Welcome, Maximilian and Christian.
Hello and welcome to the NIO podcast, House of NIO. Today is all about energy and power. I'm Maximilian Schumacher. I'm responsible for energy, innovation and strategy at NIO in Europe. Before, I worked my whole career in the energy sector, so actually I have not that many ideas about cars, but the more it's a pleasure that we have today here Christian Malorny, who's definitely an automotive expert.
Yeah, thanks, Maximilian, for the invitation. First of all, I'm happy to be here in the NIO House in Berlin. I am a big auto fan. Yeah, I have cars at my home from 1954 to today.
Wow.
Also electrical cars. I'm my whole life a consultant. Have been 20 years with McKinsey, led the automotive sector there on a global base. I'm now with Kearney, supporting my clients in automotive, getting the transformation done, as you know, and we will talk about power, the energy sector and the automotive sector, how these two sectors are merging together. And I'm really happy to support you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. And you already mentioned it. Actually, we are talking about how to combine the energy sector with the automotive sector. And my first question would be, since you are an automotive expert, what do you see are the biggest challenges for this merger of those two sectors?
Yeah, let me elaborate a little bit on the topic itself. I think we have two major elements here which are important to talk about. One is the auto itself, transportation, traffic. When you look on our way to climate neutral economy, automotive and transportation makes 20% of CO2 emissions. So it is really important to get this down and to have a solution for this, what actually is battery electrical vehicles. On the other hand, we need energy for this. And the energy comes from renewables. And there we are. Yeah, we need renewable energy and we need cars, vehicles, automotive, trucks, which are using this. And this is where we are now.
Actually, I think we are in the middle of the biggest industrial revolution since the invention of the steam engine in both sectors, the energy sector and the automotive sector. Because as you mentioned, we are completely changing both sectors, and both sectors are very crucial for our entire industry and also society. And when we're talking about combining those sectors, actually, we have to keep in mind that the overall goal at the end is that we reduce emissions in all areas of our society and our industrial. And the question is how we can manage this transition. I think we all agree on what's the goal. The question is how we get there. And what are your takes on that? What do you think are the next necessary steps in order to combine those sectors? And how can we ensure that we don't lose important things on the way to that?
Yeah, I think the key topic in combining both is the security of supply. Mm-hmm. How do we make sure that in a decentralized energy production and decentralized network of transporting energy, that we still have sustainability and security of supply? And I think the key element in this are the batteries, or could be the batteries. Having electrical vehicles battery-driven means that we can use these batteries not only to get the sustainability done, but also to use batteries as storage devices.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, actually, what you mentioned is part of the energy economical triangle. You have to find a balance between security of supply, sustainability, and affordability. So economical aspects. And that was actually one of the main reasons why I changed to NIO when they asked me, because I think NIO exactly understood what it means that we have to meet all goals of this triangle at once. So, and that's actually the approach of NIO in regards to power, is that we are not just thinking as an automotive company, but we are thinking as an integrated company which serves the automotive sector as well as the energy sector. And our tool to do so is actually the power substation, because there we are combining the batteries and connecting them directly to the grid. And we are actually decoupling the electric vehicle charging process from the grid, because we can charge the batteries in the power substation completely independent of the charging process of the car. So you can swap your battery, let's say at 12 o'clock at noon, but then we just store the empty battery and charge it later when, for example, electricity prices are low or when grid connection is available. Do you know any strategies from other OEMs who are also trying to combine electricity sector and automotive sector?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone needs to do it, right? I think the approaches could be different. You have the power swap stations, which is, I think, a great idea, especially when it comes to energy and to balance energy in the networks, because you can use your swap stations as little energy production units, if you will. So you can connect them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can connect them, and you can charge them actually independently from using it. Yeah, from using it in the vehicle. What means we don't need necessarily high voltage charging devices, because you can charge them overnight slowly and not occupying the net in your region itself. Yeah, so this is a big advantage from my perspective. On the other hand, looking at other OEMs, of course, you can also use cars itself, which has a fixed installed battery, by having a charging in both direction, in and out, and using those vehicles at home also as a storage device for the net itself. Yeah, it's, from my perspective, it's more complicated, because you have a lot of legal questions. In your case, it is a B2B case. In the case of private ownership, also people who are owning their cars privately and want to use it as a storage device, means we have a B2C interface, which needs to have a lot of legal solutions, because you are not only a owner of the electricity, but you are also, when it goes in the other direction, a producer of the electricity, because you are feeding in the energy again into the net. And how do we deal with it? And who is responsible for what kind of quality here, and so on and so on. So this needs to get solved, but countries like Netherlands have already solved it, and we see that it works, and we will see probably more of these kind of solutions. Yeah, that's actually the two ways we are going.
What we are trying right now is we're trying to electrify our mobility sector. At the same time, we try to decarbonize our electricity sector. By electrifying the mobility sector, we are adding a huge load to the electricity sector, where we already have the challenge to cover the existing load with renewables. So, and normally, especially high power chargers are a huge burden for the distribution grid because of limited grid capacity available. And so we already see in the market many CPOs combining their high power chargers with storage solutions in order that they maximize the utilization of the available grid connection. With the power substation, we already have the storage integrated, but we don't need to buy an extra storage because the storage is actually consisting of the batteries we are swapping. Mm-hmm. So the big advantage of the power substation is that instead of being an extra burden to the distribution grid, the power substation can be a relief for the distribution grid, because we can use the available storage in the power substations in order to balance the frequency and to balance the grid at all and relieve the grid.
Let me add something to this. I think the energy we need for battery electric driving is overestimated. When you look at the real numbers, let's take the German market. We have in Germany, we have 45 million cars on the road. Given that all of these cars are getting electrified, we need 90 terawatt hours as electricity. This is 20% of the energy we are already using today. So we use nearly 550 today per year in Germany, and 90 would be all cars electrified. Yeah. When you look on the increase of the renewables, only in the last 5 years, this was the same amount, 90 terawatt hours. So we are increasing renewable energy within 5 years in the magnitude what we need for 45 million cars on the road. Yeah, means that energy supply and renewable energy supply for electrical driving shouldn't be an issue.
I completely agree with you, and especially you mentioned something very important. You talked about energy, and maybe now it becomes quite technical, but actually we have to distinguish between energy and power.
Yeah.
Energy is just, okay, how much energy we need in a year or in a certain time, but the power is in an instant of moment, how much power we need. And there we are seeing right now the grid congestions. And we already have the situation, for example, in the Netherlands, that you simply don't get a new grid connection because the grid is not ready to take your load from the high power charger, for example. And the power substation actually can be, as I mentioned, can be a relief. And it's not just about the energy, but the power swap station can be used for so-called peak shaving, so that we avoid that we charge or that we withdraw electricity from the grid all at once, but we shift the time when we draw the electricity from the grid, which again leads to we need less grid connection capacity. Now we talked about the big picture that we have to decarbonize both sectors, that we see quite, let's say, nice synergies and how they can profit from each other. If we break it down on a lower scale, what do you see as advantages for users by applying the power substations or by swapping?
Well, actually, of course, I think the main advantage is speed. Speed. We still have the situation that charging a car takes time. Even if we have fast charging, and charging will become faster, of course. But at least the technologies which we see and which will emerge will still need time to charge a car, at least to 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
And 15 to 20 minutes is still something what is different than filling up a car with fuel, right? And this means that if you can change the battery within 5 minutes, this would be an advantage. Yeah.
What you mentioned are all advantages from a automotive user point of view. The nice thing is with the power substations, since as I mentioned, we can also use them to balance the grid. So there are additional revenue streams we are
Absolutely.
tapping.
I mean, when you are giving back the money you can earn with your power swap stations itself to the electricity price which you have to pay when you exchange your battery as a driver, then we have win-win situations, right?
Definitely, and that's actually what NIO is doing. We are tapping several revenue streams with the power substations, which are beyond the charging process or the automotive use case. For example, balancing grid, and all those revenues we are using in order to lower the electricity prices for our users when they swap. The interesting thing is, one big advantage of the power substation is that we are quite smoothly charging the batteries inside it. So, and this is very healthy for the batteries. So because we don't apply high loads to the battery or high power, this means actually our batteries have a lifetime officially with warranty and everything of 8 years, 96 months. But now we gained the experience in China already that the batteries are in a much better condition than normal batteries which are fixed, built in other electric vehicles. This is one advantage, is because we are smoothly charging them, and you are always completely checking the battery when it's in a power swap station. So whenever a user swaps a battery, he gets a completely new, let's say, a maintained battery. So the lifetime of NIO batteries is much longer than of other OEM electric vehicle batteries. And this, of course, pays down at the end to the business case for the user. We have a much higher utilization of the batteries than a normal electric vehicle battery, because 95% of the time, electric vehicle, also an electric vehicle, is just staying around, doing nothing.
How do you see that? I mean, we all are gaining the experience that the life cycle of the battery is not the issue itself for the life cycle of the car, right?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, and that's very interesting, because with normal electric vehicles, we have the situation that we have actually two assets. We have the battery as an asset from a financial point of view, and we have the chassis of an asset, and both have different lifetimes. So normally the chassis of or the lifetime of a chassis is normally roughly 12 years, 14 years, something like that. Of a battery, as I mentioned, let's count with 8 years, something like that. So we have a much steeper depreciation of the battery compared to the depreciation of the chassis, which brings us to a ridiculous situation. Quite famous electric vehicle companies, which started quite early in the market, have no vehicles on the second hand market, which have a very low price because the battery is already 8 years old, but the chassis is also just 8 years old and could live much longer, could be used much longer. So, and that's the big advantage of NIO, is that you can exchange the battery quite easily. So you don't have this depreciation effect or value loss effect on the entire car, because you can, with an old chassis, you can use a new battery, and then you can simply sell it on the second-hand market.
Yeah. I see another advantage, frankly speaking. We will see a lot of innovation in battery technology. Which chemistry we combine? What kind of battery do we will see? Also in terms of how to cool down batteries, how to heat batteries up, and so on and so on. Battery management. You can bring always the newest technology to your customers, and the cars are already there. Right?
I completely agree with you, yeah.
So I don't need to buy a new car each time I want to have a new battery.
We go even further. We are now introducing flexible upgrade solutions for our users, which means if you bought a NIO car and subscribed for battery as a service for, let's say, a 75 kilowatt hour battery, what we call standard range battery, and you know, okay, I want to go on vacation for, let's say, a couple of weeks, and for this vacation I would like to have a larger battery, then you can flexibly upgrade. You simply go to a power swap station, you order, instead of a 75 kilowatt hour battery, a 100 kilowatt hour battery, and then you extended your range by a simply swap.
And the space in the car is already available.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's the same. Let's say the body of the battery is the same. It's just a different capacity in it. So it's not just on a long term you can utilize the advantages of battery innovation, but also on a short term.
Yeah. How many batteries do you have in a swap station?
It depends on which power swap station version. In the power swap station version we mostly installed up to now in Europe, we have up to 12 batteries. But we are now introducing step by step the newer version of the power swap station, where we can have up to 21 batteries
Yeah.
And that's also a modular approach. So it depends on, even with the new power substation generation, it depends on the site how many batteries we want to have installed there permanently, which is quite cost effective.
Yeah, yeah. And you probably have a model, I guess, where you also combine how many cars are we selling, what is the geography they are driving, and how many swap stations then do we have to build continuously, right?
We have a huge model which is telling us exactly where to put our power substations, and it also depends on the strategy. So quite frankly, we start with a strategy that we want to enable users to drive through all our core markets in Europe, so from, let's say, Munich to Oslo. So we focus on highway locations. But of course, the more power substation we are building, the denser the network gets, and the less we will focus on highway locations, but maybe on city locations and so on.
Have you calculated, coming back to this idea, using the swap station also as a storage device for the electricity net?
Yeah.
Have you calculated how much gigawatt you can provide to the net?
Gigawatt.
Yeah. Gigawatt. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you have to distinguish between one single power substation and the entire network.
Yeah.
So the kilowatt, so the power depends on the grid connection. What is more interesting is how much energy we are storing, and we are connecting to the grid, energy storage. And there you can roughly calculate, let's say, roughly 10 batteries are available for grid services. An average battery, because we have both, we have the 75 kilowatt hour batteries and the 100 kilowatt hour batteries in the power substation. But in average, you can count roughly kilowatt hour per battery, so roughly 800 kilowatt hours of energy storage would be available at the grid connection point.
Yeah, and I can imagine how difficult this is to get this done, given that we have in Europe a highly decentralized electricity net. When you just look at our nice example, Germany, where we have 4 companies who are managing the high voltage net, and 850 companies who are managing the low voltage net. And we are talking, when we charge our cars, about low voltage. Yeah, then you can imagine how much interfaces and how much discussions and talks and agreements you need to get this done.
Yeah, especially if you come from a technical point or from a technical aspect, actually we have a centralized electricity grid with transmission lines and distribution lines. But you are completely right. At the end, we have in Germany over 800 distribution system operators. And yeah, you have to talk to each of them if you want to install a power substation in their balancing area. This is just one part of, let's say, many regulatory framework aspects which are currently not in favor to install a huge network of power substation. However, NIO is doing it since over 2 years in Europe. We reached now our 50th power substation, and we are continuously increasing our network. And NIO came to Europe not just for a sprint, but for a marathon. And we are building up a complete new infrastructure, a decentralized infrastructure, which is a storage grid-connected infrastructure, and which helps the entire economy and society to decarbonize. And on the other side, helps our users to have a very convenient charging experience.
Yeah, and when you look into the plans, for example, of the German government, how electricity production should emerge over the next 15, 20 years, then battery storage is one very important lever. It's quite interesting, yeah. When you look, the Germans have switched down the nuclear power stations, which was 4.5 terawatt hours, and now wants to go out of coal electricity production by 2038. What would mean 35 terawatt hours are getting out of the network. And then you see the increase of electricity which we need, especially peak increase. There, battery storage is one important element to provide this.
Definitely, especially we have the ridiculous situation. If the more renewables we install, the higher the self-cannibalization effect is. Because if the sun is shining, almost all PV systems are producing at the same time. Yeah. Due to grid congestions, not all of the electricity can be transported to the load centers, so we have a lot of shutdowns of the PV systems. And therefore, you need decentralized storage in order to take off the electricity, which cannot be transported via the grid.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we all agree on the common goal. We have to decarbonize our energy systems. We have to decarbonize our mobility sector. And I think the power substation is the perfect puzzle part which can connect those two sectors and can, let's say, enable the decarbonization of the energy sector and at the same time enable the electrification of the mobility sector.
And in addition can provide peak loads. Peak capacity, for a certain time of when you need it, and this is perfect.
Yeah, completely agree with you,
Maximilian. I have learned a lot about your power swap stations, especially how these power swap stations can connect or can get a connection between the energy sector and the automotive sector. Thanks a lot for this. I have a last question for you. How do you go on with a power swap station? How will they emerge in the future? How do you see this?
So we are definitely keeping on the pace on continuously increasing the power substation grid all over Europe in all our markets, which are Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. And we are increasing the numbers of power substations in each market. And we are increasing also the utilization of the power substation for use cases beyond the EV use case. As I mentioned, we are running now pilots for balancing power and intraday trading with the power substations. We will definitely increase those activities, not just intensify in certain markets, but also increase them over all markets where certain products and services are available, and utilize more and more the revenue streams from those services in order to further decrease the electricity cost for our users, because that's the core of NIO is user satisfaction. And I'm deeply convinced if we use the power substations not just individually but as an entire network for electricity trading, for balancing power, then at some point I could imagine that we could reach the situation that users don't have to pay for electricity. But of course, this won't happen tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But it would definitely, according to NIO's strategy, to be user-centric and to reduce the cost for mobility for users as much as possible. At the same time, increase the advantages of the power substation for the society to a maximum.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot to have me here.
Yeah, I have to thank you. Thank you very much for being here. And I learned today a lot of the automotive industry. And I'm really looking forward for a bright future for both the energy sector and the automotive sector.
Thanks, Maximilian and Christian, for the many interesting insights into the vision behind the NIO Power Swap stations and the information on energy and power on House of NIO, a NIO podcast.